Hello, genealogists. This is Craig from Just Genealogy again. Today, we're going to talk about rejected or suspended applications for Revolutionary War pensions. The information about the rejected or suspended applications can be found either in book form or on Ancestry. This actually is a Secretary of War report that was made in response to a Senate resolution of 16 September 1850. It deals specifically with 3 different Revolutionary War pension acts. These are gratuitous pensions, these 3 acts. They basically only occurred because people lived long enough to get them. The first, the Act of 7 June 1832, is a law that provided for pensions for militiamen who served at least 6 months. The 1836 and 1838 laws are widows who have met various marriage requirements. The 1836 law required that the widow have been married to the veteran prior to the expiration of his enlistment. The 1830 Act required that she be married to the veteran prior to 1 January 1784. So the report is divided into the sections by the act, and then within each act, there's rejected or suspended. So this report will provide us with the names of the soldier, and if it's one of the 2 widow acts, it will provide us with the names of the soldier and the widow. It will tell us whether it's rejected or suspended, by what list it's in. It will tell us what the reason for rejection or suspension was, and will also provide us a place of residence, sometimes at the city, but always at least the county level. There is an index available on both Ancestry and in the book that was created by Clearfield Company when they first published the book, and it is by state and the District of Columbia. So the first set of lists deal with that Militia Act of 1832, and it lists those that were rejected, provides us the name, and then the residence. And remember, in this time period, 1832, there is no West Virginia yet. So you'll see a lot of West Virginia counties in these lists, because in 1832, 36, and 38, they are Virginia counties. They don't become West Virginia until 1863. So there's a number of reasons for why a pension would be rejected. It could be that someone thought that what they were doing was for the military and it wasn't. The first example here is domestic police in pursuit of Tories. Well, chasing Tories as a civilian doesn't qualify you for a pension. There also are many fraudulent pensions. So these are identified as being fraudulent. The number 1 reason probably for rejection under the Act of 1832 is they failed to prove that they had served, or they failed to prove that they had served for at least 6 months. So that's probably the number 1 reason. So, but generally fraudulent, did not serve 6 months, unable to prove service. There's the issue of evidence of age, meaning that the pension office decided that the person was just too young to qualify for a pension. And I've talked to you before about this book, Underaged Warriors, that talks about 7 to 14-year-olds and the problems that they had in trying to obtain a pension for their service as drummer boys or fifers or those kind of, or valets or those kind of things during the war. There also is the issue of the civil service. If you're a teamster or a wagoner or a policeman or something like that, you're not likely to be able to get a pension unless you're already in the military when you're performing those functions. In other words, if you were in the military and a teamster or a wagoner, you would qualify for a pension. If you're a teamster or a wagoner, you would not qualify for a pension, and you're probably filing a public claim for your service because you weren't paid for it. There also is the issue is that this is a Revolutionary War Act, so it does not deal with widows of Indian War veterans. They're covered elsewhere. So this act is specific to 1832. And we're also talking about veterans. Veterans of Indian Wars do not qualify under this act. So then we have the concept of suspended. Basically, the concept of suspended is the government's still waiting for further proof. In other words, you submitted an application, but you didn't provide enough information, enough specificity for the government to be able to make an adjudication as to whether you were qualified for the pension or not. This could happen because you said you were a Teamster, but you didn't provide proof of your military service. They went back and asked you for proof of your military service, and they're waiting for it. That would be an example. Or the evidence that you provided about your service wasn't sufficient. Remember, you also had to have 6 months, but they might wait a little bit if it was close. I knew of a veteran in Virginia who had moved to Ohio that could only prove 5.5 months of service, and his pension was rejected for that reason. He tried very hard to get those additional 2 weeks, and he just couldn't do it. So the reasons for suspension are they're waiting for further proof and specification. It just doesn't get there quickly enough. No evidence of service. They're still awaiting further proof, or the guy didn't serve 6 months. Then we have the Act of 1836. The Act of 1836 distilled down says you got a widow of a man who qualified for a pension, and she was married to the man prior to the expiration of his service. So she is entitled to this pension. Expiration of service means that she married the guy during the Revolutionary War or before the Revolutionary War. So the major reason for rejection under this act is marrying after the expiration of service, or the individual was a soldier in the regular army, not a soldier in the Revolutionary War. So you may have widows of 1812 soldiers who have died after the returned home and died after the War of 1812, and the widow thinks that she's entitled to a pension, where in fact she won't be entitled to a pension until the 1870s. So the reasons for rejection are, again, fraudulent. The veteran did not serve 6 months, therefore she does not qualify for the pension. There's no proof of marriage. A widow cannot get a pension unless she can prove her marriage to the soldier. She was married after the expiration of his service. He was a soldier in the regular army, so therefore she doesn't qualify under the law, or we just have no proof of service. Suspension is not much different. Again, the government is waiting for the proof of marriage, for example, and everything's lined up. You've got the proof of service for the soldier, but you don't have the proof of marriage for the widow. Or the service of the soldier isn't, on further reflection, turns out to be not good enough to follow the act. And those are the kind of things. So basically the reasons are the same, but lack of sufficient proof probably is the #1 reason for suspension. The Act of 1838 bumped up the marriage date to 1 January 1794. So you've got the same reasons for rejection that you had in 1836, but the marriage date has been extended, is probably the #1 reason that they would qualify under this act. So the Act of 7 July 1838 is extended the marriage date for the widows to 1 January 1794. So now a widow had to be married before 1 January 1794 in order to qualify for a pension. You've got all kinds of reasons for why they're rejected. They're very similar to the 1836. Either they weren't in the Revolutionary Army. In one case, the top one here, he was a soldier in the French army, and the widow had some expectation that she would be able to get a pension out of the US government. So the usual reasons are fraudulent, the veteran didn't serve 6 months, no proof of marriage, married after 1 January 1794. The veteran was a soldier in the regular army, not in the Revolutionary War Army, or no proof of service. So same old, same old. The suspended 1838 are just like the suspended 1836, largely insufficient proof of service, insufficient proof of marriage. And those are the major reasons for why they will be suspended. Lack of proof. Got to have that proof. So if you've got questions about this, be sure to put them in the comments down below. This is Just Genealogy, converting people doing genealogy into genealogists day by day. Thank you all very much. I appreciate you.